When the Roger asked for the help to the owl, then immediately Joanne, the daughter of Jack, started. The wizard, the wizard. Joe shouted and sat right up, and a little golden book spilled from the bed. Due to her excitement, what has happened? A golden book spilled from the bed. Now, Joe, Daddy is telling the story. Do you want to tell Daddy the story? He got irritation and immediately Jack asked that you will tell story or I have to tell the story. Then no, you, me. Then lie down and be sleepy, he said. Then lie down and be sleepy. Sleep. Her head relapsed onto the pillow and she said, out of your head. Now she became quiet. Relapsed. Relapsed means she put her head as it is on the pillow and she was ready to listen the story. Well, the owl thought and thought. At last he said, why don't you go see the wizard? Daddy, what? Then immediately owl suggested that go and meet wizard to solve the problem. Then Joe asked, Daddy, what? So here why she expressed means what she expected, the same thing has happened. Now she asked, are magic spells real? This was a new phase just this last month, a reality phase. When he told her spider eat bugs, she turned to her mother and asked, do they really? And when Claire told her God was in the sky and all around them, she turned to her father and insisted with a sly yet eager smile, is he really? Now it was really. Last month there were no questions from the Joe, but now she was growing day by day. Now she was asking many questions. So last month when he was explaining one story, when he told about that spiders would eat bugs, then immediately she asked one question to mother whether spiders would eat bugs, whether it was real or not. So whenever the Claire declared that the God was in the sky and all around them, then she turned to her father and insisted that whether it was real or not. So these kind of questions were asking by the Joe to her father, because now by this we understood that she was growing day by day and her brain was also growing day by day. That's why it was impossible for him to make sleep, especially on Saturdays naps. They are real in stories, Jack answered curtly. Curtly means briefly. They were real only in stories but not outside. She had made him miss a beat in the narrative. The owl said, go through the dark woods, under the apple trees, into the swamp, over the creek. Then immediately she asked, what is creek? So here swamp means muddy area. So owl suggested him to go to the way. Which way? The owl said, go through the dark woods means forest, under the apple trees, into the swamp. Swamp is a muddy area, and over the creek. Creek is a small stream which is included with water. Then immediately Joe asked, what is a creek? A little river over the creek and there will be the wizard's house. Creek means here a little river. The owl has told the address. And thus the way Roger Skunk went, and pretty soon he came to the little white house and he rapped on the door. Rapped on the door means knocked on the door. So Roger Skunk reached there. It was a little white house and he knocked on the door. Then Jack rapped on the windowsill, and under the covers Joe's tall figure clenched in an infantile thrill. So here Jack was excited and he started showing the real things. That means he also knocked on the windowsill to give some extra things to the story. That means he wanted to add some creativity to the story, a little bit creative. So that's what Jack himself knocked on the windowsill, so that she will be excited. His daughter will be excited. Immediately tall figure clenched. Clenched means she pressed tightly in an infantile thrill. That means she felt a kind of thrill. That means which kind of thrill? Infantile means childish thrill. And then a tiny little old man came out with a long white beard and a pointed blue hat and said, a white little old man. So he is wizard. He was a white little old man, but he knows magic very well. Then he came and he came out and said, what's your want? See, here he was imitating. Jack also imitating the language. What's this? What you want? You smell awful. Awful means very bad. The old man asked, what is this? You are smelling very bad. The wizard's voice was one of Jack's own favorite effects. So, the wizard's voice also imitated by the Jack, and it was his own favorite effect. He did it by scrunching up his face and somehow winning through his eyes. Scrunching means a kind of squeezing, changing expressions in the face, and he was showing, that means creating. Winning means creating a kind of noise to show exactly the voice of wizard, which felt for the interval roomy, that means watery. There was a watery on his face. He felt being an old man suited him. So being an old man, he also exactly behaved like wizard so that his daughter would be excited. I know it, Roger Skunk said, and all the little animals run away from me. The enormous wise owl said, you could help me. Then Roger Skunk said, I know that. So the owl suggested me to meet you. Well, maybe. Come on in. Don't get too close. Now, inside. Joe, there were all these magic things all jumbled together in a big dusty heap because the wizard did not have any cleaning lady. So, immediately, he said, Jack was also acting like wizard. Then he said, come inside, but don't come too close to me because I can't bear your smell. Then come inside. Whenever Roger Skunk entered inside, the room was very dusty because he was very old and no cleaning lady was there to clean the house regularly. Why? Because he was a wizard and a very old man. And she asked one more question. Why the house was dusty? Then Jack said, because he was a wizard and he was very old. Will he die? She asked again. Joe asked. By this we understood she was growing. Her brain capacity is also growing. Will he die? She asked. No, wizards don't die. Well, he rummaged around and found an old stick called a magic wand and asked Roger Skunk what he wanted to smell like. Roger thought and said, roses. Then immediately he rummaged. Rummaged means searched for long time. Searched difficulty for long time, and he found his magic wand. And because he wanted magic wand to spell or to chant some mantras. So immediately he asked, which smell you want? She said, roses. Then here Joe replied, yes, good. Joe said smugly, yeah. The decision of Roger Skunk was really good. Smugly means a kind of happiness. Jack fixed her with a trance-like gaze and chanted in the wizard's elderly, irritable voice. Now, Jack also, just like wizard, he also have spoken in an irritable voice and fixed her trance with a trance-like gaze. That means, trance means to look others very silently. So he also put concentration on his little girl. Then he also imitated his irritable voice. Now what did he say? Abracadabra, hocus pocus, Roger Skunk, how do you do? Roses, boses, pull an ear. Roger Skunk, you never fear. Bingo. He repeated. Wizard repeated this mantra. He chanted this mantra to make skunk to get rose smell. He paused as a rapt expression widened out from his daughter's nostrils, forcing her eyebrows up and her lower lip down in a wide, noiseless grin, an expression in which Jack was startled to recognize his wife feigning pleasure at cocktail parties. Then Jack stopped and observed the expression of Joe, expression of his daughter. Then whenever he observed, she put exactly the eyebrows and noiseless, everything just like his wife. Whenever his wife also will keep a kind of expression like feigning pleasure means to show a kind of pleasure. Whenever she was at cocktail parties, she put eyebrows in a different way. She put grin means expressions in a different way. So just like that, here also Joe put same kind of expressions while he was explaining the story. And all of a sudden he whispered, the whole inside of the wizard's house was full of the smell of roses. Roger Fish cried. And the wizard said, very cranky, that will be 7 pennies. Then after some time, immediately the whole house, the whole area smelled like roses. Then here Jack also, but by mistake he said Roger Fish instead of Roger Skunk. So immediately he asked, that means wizard demanded Roger Skunk to pay 7 pennies for it. Then immediately daughter, you see, daddy, what? Roger Skunk? You said Roger Fish. Yes, Skunk, you said Roger Fish. Wasn't that silly? She questioned like him, why are you behaving like silly? It was not Roger Fish, it was Roger Skunk. Very silly of your stupid old daddy. Where was I? Well, you know about the pennies. Now he also agreed his mistake and he said, where was I? Then she said that we were at pennies. Say it. Okay, Roger Skunk said, but all I have is 4 pennies. And he began to cry. Joe made the crying face again, but this time without a trace of sincerity. So what happened here? The Roger Skunk had only 4 pennies. Now the Roger Skunk started crying. Just like that, Joe also acted just like Roger Skunk and she also started crying, but there was no sincerity in her behavior. So it also irritated Mr. Jack. This annoyed Jack. Downstairs some more furniture rumbled. Claire shouldn't move heavy things. She was 6 months pregnant. It would be their 3rd. Now Jack's concentration is on downstairs because there his wife was painting. So there was a rumbling sound. There was a kind of rumble means a kind of sound, furniture sound. And Claire, he knows that Claire shouldn't move heavy things because she was 6 months pregnant and it would be her 3rd pregnant. So the wizard said, oh, very well. Then wizard have shown the way to pay 7 pennies. How to pay the 7 pennies. So wizard has given one solution to the skunk, that go to the end of the lane and turn around 3 times and look down the magic well and there you will find 3 pennies. Hurry up, said. Who said this? Wizard said to go there and you will get magic well. There you will get 3 pennies. Bring them fast and pay 7 pennies to wizard. So Roger Skunk went to the end of the lane and turned around 3 times and there in the magic well were 3 pennies. So he took them back to the wizard and was very happy and ran out into the woods, and all the other little animals gathered around him because he smelled so good. So just like Roger Skunk did, went and brought 3 pennies from the magic well, and these pennies were given to wizard, and when she left from there very happily. When he reached to the woods, all the other animals were very happy because of this pleasant smell. Now Roger Skunk became their best friend and they played tag, baseball, football, basketball, lacrosse, hockey, soccer and pick up sticks. All these were played. What is pick up sticks? She asked. It's a game you play with sticks, Jack answered. Like the wizard's magic wand. Yeah, kind of. And they played games and laughed all afternoon, and then it began to get dark and they all ran home to their mommy. So, in the evening, afternoon, so it began to get dark and they decided to go to their houses. So, Roger Skunk also reached to house. Jo was starting to fuss with her hands and look out of the window at the crack of day that showed under the shade. Now Jo was she was a little bit stressed because she doesn't have proper sleep. That's what she was fussing her hands. Means it shows a little bit of worry. Whenever we fuss our hands, it shows worry to others. Now she thought the story was all over. Jack didn't like women when they took anything for granted. He liked them apprehensive, hanging on his words. Now, Joe, are you listening? And she thought that the story was over. So this was also annoyed to the Jack because he don't want women especially to decide themselves. So Jack said that, my dear girl, the story was not over. My dear girl, are you listening the story? Yes, because this is very interesting. Roger Skunk's mummy said, what is that awful smell? Awful means bad. Then whenever Roger Skunk reached to house, mummy asked immediately, what is that awful smell? Actually rose smell, but it was awful smell for Roger Skunk's mother. What? Replied by the Roger Skunk. And Roger Skunk said, it's me, mommy, I smell like roses. And she said, who made you smell like that? And he said, the wizard. And she said, well, of all the now, you come with me. And we were going right back to that very awful wizard. So we will write back to the very awful wizard. So I don't like this smell. Who made you like this? Then Roger Skunk replied that, wizard. Then immediately mother decided to go to the wizard and get the original smell to Roger Skunk. Jo sat up, her hands dabbing in the air with genuine fright. So dabbling means waving her hands in the air with genuine fright. Now for the first time she was feeling afraid. But daddy, then he said about the other little animals run away, her hands skittered off into the underbrush. Immediately her hands were waving, rubbing by herself, and she was very eager to know. She was getting angry and she was getting a kind of afraid because what will happen if the mother skunk will go to the wizard? All right, he said, but mommy, all the other little animals run away. And she said, I don't care. You smell the way a little skunk should have, and I am going to take you right back to the wizard. And she took an umbrella and went back with Roger Skunk and hit that wizard right over the head. So immediately she went from there. She said, I don't care because ours is original smell, so we have to follow our smell. So that's why she took an umbrella and went there, and Roger Skunk's mother hit that wizard right over the head. She was very angry and she was not listening the words of Roger Skunk, and she went and she hit that wizard over the head.